December 5th was Z340 Day. It's hard to believe it's already been 5 years since we cracked Zodiac's notorious 340-character cipher. I wanted to mark the occasion by revisiting some of the details around that time period, and the roller coaster ride it ended up being for me, Sam, and Jarl. Way back in the spring of 2007, David Fincher's Zodiac film had just been released, and the Zodiac's crimes and ciphers were fresh on everyone's minds. I must have seen the 340 cipher around then. It caught my attention and I built a little web toy to let people try to crack it. That little gadget became popular, but since it treated the cipher as a simple substitution, nobody discovered Zodiac's secret message. In the meantime, I ran lots of my own experiments and tested many ideas, but hit brick walls every single time. I also spent a lot of time analyzing the code-breaking attempts of other amateur sleuths, and came to be known as the guy who could peer review your code-breaking homework. In 2013, I was 6 years into my obsession with Zodiac's ciphers, and learned about the NSA-sponsored Cryptologic History Symposium. It's a gathering filled with fascinating historical tales of codes and ciphers. I decided to attend that year, and met interesting people with similar interests. Dr. Craig Bauer gave a talk about a voice scrambling machine, and he had given talks before about Zodiac's ciphers. Cryptography author Klaus Schmey presented examples from 32 encrypted books. He too has written about Zodiac's ciphers. I also met cryptology enthusiast Ilanka Dunin, who talked about recreational cryptography used for geocaching. I enjoyed the symposium so much that I wondered about submitting a talk about the Zodiac ciphers for the next one in 2015. On a whim, I submitted a proposal for a presentation, then forgot about it for a while. I didn't think there was any chance my weird, rogue topic would be taken seriously by such an academic environment. But a few months later, I was shocked to receive an acceptance email. I had to get busy. Then an additional shock hit me. They told me about the panel I'd be speaking in. There were going to be at least 2 FBI guys there. I quickly felt like I was in over my head and had no business trying to butt into a room full of NSA and FBI professionals to talk about my stupid little code-breaking hobby. My anxiety was through the roof. I was so nervous, it took me forever to fall asleep the night before my talk. It felt a lot like the night before I went skydiving for the first time. But I prepared the best I could, and the talk went well. I'm so glad I didn't back out because I think giving that talk was a pivotal moment for me. I got a lot of good feedback from the people there, including the FBI folks. It validated my stupid little code-breaking hobby, and encouraged me to keep trying to uncover Zodiac's elusive secret message. Something else significant happened in 2015 that was important to solving Z340. Both Jarl and Daikon independently made a discovery of what we call the Period 19 anomaly. Basically, hints of English language will show up as repeating patterns in a substitution cipher, but for Z340, those patterns don't show up unless you look at symbols that are 19 positions apart. This ended up being one of the most important clues to cracking the cipher because it revealed that some kind of transposition was going on. That is, Zodiac's secret message was rearranged as part of his encoding steps. Jarl's discovery of that clue was another big step in his journey towards the solution, which began in 2014 when he saw Zodiac videos and became fascinated by the ciphers. He too was highly motivated to solve Z340, even to the point of setting aside his musical hobby. He poured his energy into building a powerful and super efficient cipher-solving program to help him test lots of ideas. That program was crucial to our experiments. Sam got interested in the ciphers at a time when he was getting burned out on another unsolved problem related to his PhD thesis. He watched The Hunt for the Zodiac Killer in 2017 and then came across my videos. I first heard from him in 2019. By that time, I had published a few YouTube videos of my various talks at code-breaking conferences, including one for the American Cryptogram Association convention. Sam left a comment on that video, asking about transposition and offering some of his own transposition ideas. About 7 months later, we started exchanging more ideas via email. Throughout 2019 and 2020, we sporadically tried out different experiments. Sam would come up with systematic ways to rearrange the ciphertext, and I'd feed them all into Jarl's AZ-Decrypt program to see if anything interesting would turn up. They'd often produce interesting words and phrases that almost seemed like real messages, but they were always phantoms. This was all happening during the COVID-19 pandemic, when many places, such as Sam's home country of Australia, were locked down. He suddenly had a lot of free time at home, and he also had access to a supercomputer at his university. He ran experiments there using ZK Decrypto, an older cipher-solving program that I like to call the spiritual predecessor to AZ Decrypt. By December 2, 2020, we had worked on over 650,000 cipher variations with no success. We decided to repeat the experiment on those same ciphers, but with more careful attention to AZ Decrypt scores. By then, Jarl had released newer versions of AZ Decrypt with improved solving abilities and a nice new feature that added spaces automatically. This made the mountains of plain text we were sifting through much easier to read. The idea was to run this experiment and then take a closer look at whatever had the highest scores. The next day, one of the top scoring results caught my attention. It had some really interesting fragments. Hope you are, trying to catch me, shot which brings up, me name of, or the gas chamber, he has nothing then they. These all seemed very Zodiac-like, but I've been fooled by this kind of noise before. Zodiac-like words and phrases have appeared in the past, but they always led me into a brick wall. They were false positives, phantoms. But this seemed different somehow. The combination of hope you are trying to catch me and the gas chamber was very compelling. If it was noise, it was really good noise. I posted it in our chat and kept studying it. The rearranged cipher was split into 3 sections. I saw that Sam had rewritten 2 sections, 9 rows each, using a period 19 scheme, similar to a knight's move in chess. It was evening for me, but morning was breaking in Australia. Sam woke up and saw my messages. He agreed with me that this one was really interesting. A few hours later, I decided to isolate the first section and solve it by itself in AZ Decrypt. Jarl's solver program has a nice cribbing feature, which is where you tell it what you think the known plaintext is. Then the solver explores possible solutions that include those fragments. AZ Decrypt didn't have any trouble with this task. It immediately cracked the first section. I could almost hear my heart pounding in my chest as I jumped out of my chair. The plaintext wasn't perfect yet, but it was extremely close. All my doubts and skepticism melted away the moment I saw that wasn't me on the TV show. It's because I knew that 2 weeks before Zodiac mailed the cipher, someone claiming to be Zodiac called into a live television show to talk to famed celebrity attorney Melvin Belli and said something interesting.
Sam, you need to tell me what your problem is.
I don't want to go to the gas chamber.
The message we uncovered was undoubtedly Zodiac trying to set the record straight. He didn't want to be confused with the copycat. He even says, "Which brings up a point about me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber." Once I had the key for the first section, I applied it to the second 9-row section of ciphertext. But it looked more like unreadable gibberish. Some words were interesting, but the rest didn't make sense. I didn't know it at the time, but that section was already about 60% correct. We needed to figure out what was wrong with our decipherment steps. I looked at the last 2 lines. When I applied the key that AZ Decrypt found, I noticed the word death appearing at the end. It didn't click until later that there was a simple way to read those lines. I excitedly shared my progress with Sam. He was at the beach, enjoying a much-needed break from quarantine, so it was a little while before he saw my message. But when he did, he was gobsmacked. He tried to figure out how this could be anything other than a legitimate decryption of the first section. When he got to a computer, we tried to work out what was going on in the second section. Why was it garbled? I emailed Jarl and briefed him with our discovery, and asked for him to help us figure out the second section. He was shocked. Both Jarl and I figured out the last 2 lines. Some of the words were reversed. The second section was becoming a little more readable, but something was still wrong. It looked like one line was causing a lot of problems. Jarl ingeniously figured out what was wrong. He adjusted the line that was causing problems and realized that you have to skip this life is part for the transposition to work properly. Jarl has such a great mind for this kind of work. In fact, he was ahead of us the entire time. Way back in May of that year, he had already discovered the nearly correct transposition scheme. But back then, when he ran that version of the cipher through AZ Decrypt, it didn't score highly enough for him to notice anything unusual. Still, if you plug in the key against his transposition, the result is very close to the finished solution. So now we had Jarl's fixes, and the final secret message from Zodiac snapped into place. By then, it was about a day and a half since I spotted those fragments like gas chamber and trying to catch me. One Cipher experiment among 650,000. Literally a needle in a haystack. We might never had seen it if Zodiac had made even one more adjustment or mistake in his method. It might have gotten completely overlooked if we had run more than 650,000 experiments, because those fragments would have gotten lost in all the noise. We were all so excited and happy with what we had achieved. Something good had come from all that effort. It kind of felt like finding lost treasure. Though that seems bad to say, since this involves a serial killer's crimes, which are the furthest thing from treasure. But the value was in the historical impact and the skills we developed. It was also very eerie to read Zodiac's message. He sent it over 50 years ago, but it was new to us, like Zodiac was speaking again. Close to 8 a.m. on December 5th, I quickly put together a simple PDF report with our discovery. I wanted it to be quick and direct and to the point. I've seen so many solution proposals that shoot themselves in the foot because they make things too complicated or obscured. I wanted to deliver this message as efficiently as possible. The plain text up front, then a simple explanation of the decryption procedure, showing how to split the cipher into pieces. Next, the substitution key needed to produce the plain text, and then the reading rules that unweave the original message from its transposed arrangement. With such clear instructions, anyone can reproduce our steps and surely will have no doubts that the uncovered message was genuine. At the end of the document, I couldn't resist throwing in, "It only took 51 years." I threw together an intentionally understated email with the report and fired it off to my FBI contacts. Within minutes, I got my first confirmation, soon followed by another, and another. Then I had a phone call with the FBI, and they passed along the solution as an amended lab report to both the San Francisco FBI field office and the San Francisco Police Department. The plan was to keep the news under wraps until they had time to do victim notifications to prepare relatives of the victims for the coming onslaught of news reports. Then the FBI Public Affairs Office would coordinate their own news release as we made our own. I also reached out to the San Francisco Police Department since they still had Zodiac as an active case. They told me they were working on their own press statement. I put together a video describing our achievement, explaining the steps so everyone else could reproduce our results and judge for themselves if we had the correct answer. I uploaded it to YouTube but set the visibility to private while we waited for the victim notification process to begin. It was agonizing to keep this secret. It felt like holding a live hand grenade and not being able to toss it. But it was important for law enforcement to inform relatives of Zodiac's victims that a news cycle was about to begin. On the morning of Friday, December 11th, 8 days after our first glimpses of fragments of the solution, we had the go-ahead to release the news, so I switched the video to public. It was episode 5 of my Let's Crack Zodiac series. Solving Z340 that soon into its run of episodes was a surprise to everyone, especially to me. The feedback on the video was great. I think a key ingredient was that we showed all the decryption steps, and they were easy to reproduce. Anyone could try them out for themselves and get the same message we did. Michael Butterfield also ran a story on his site about our solution, and I posted the announcement on some Zodiac forums. I also let Kevin Fagan of the San Francisco Chronicle know about the solution. He was the first to respond and publish the story. That was the start of an international media blitz that lasted for a few days. You can see some of it in episode 6. It was exciting to see everyone's reactions to the news. I felt validated for all the time I had wasted on that stupid cipher. I'll never forget that day because it was also the same day our oldest daughter got accepted into college for her undergraduate degree. What a wonderful day that was. I'm very grateful for being able to experience those moments. In the following weeks and months, we were approached by dozens of production companies that were interested in signing us up for some kind of long-form documentary series. After hours of phone calls, Zoom meetings, and emails, nothing came to fruition. This must be the production hell everyone in the entertainment business talks about. But I did get invited onto some later productions for brief appearances and interviews. Soon, our 15 minutes of fame ended, and life returned to normal. I continued to make new episodes of Let's Crack Zodiac. I was worried about running out of ideas for the series, but there were still lots of interesting stories to tell. Plus, I wanted to expand into other cryptography topics that I think people will be interested in. The Z340 solution didn't catch the killer, unfortunately, but we never really expected it to contain any useful information. Zodiac's first cipher message was the same, just another taunting message with no useful details. We could still work on his unsolved ciphers, Z13 and Z32, but there's only so much to do with such short ciphers. Solutions to those are almost impossible to verify. We could also explore the possibility that there are even more hidden messages in plain sight, but those too are very difficult to discover and verify, and they might not even be there in the first place. So, how did this achievement affect our lives? Cracking the 340 helped my career and opened up some new opportunities for me. Even if we never made that discovery, I feel like I grew as a programmer and problem solver because that mystery motivated me to keep working on those skills. I'm glad I didn't give up. There were lots of frustrating and nerve-wracking moments along the way. I had to walk away sometimes, but I'm glad I came back. The cipher also taught me the importance of collecting facts and information. When facing a huge problem, try to collect as much knowledge about it before jumping to conclusions and wild theories. Jarl says working on Z340 increased his decipherment skills and brought him increased respect in both his professional and private lives. He got more opportunities to work on unsolved ciphers. He solved the 400-year-old Code of Langren, a 123-year-old encrypted newspaper ad, helped establish a world record in the so-called Bigram Challenge, and analyzed the cryptic texts of the Church of Mustir. The three of us also helped a researcher decrypt historical telegrams from Brazil as part of a research project for his master's degree. And others have used AZ-Decrypt for their own code-breaking achievements, such as the Feynman ciphers. In the aftermath of the Z340 solution, Sam had some stress with his university. At first, they were concerned that he used their supercomputer as part of the research, without getting what they called ethics approval. But after putting him through the ringer, they came around to supporting his achievement, especially if it would help the university look good by association. Sam soon found time to celebrate after such an eventful weekend. Then he, too, got swept into the media frenzy and gave interviews. Jarl made the wise decision to stay away from the media, so he didn't give any interviews or get pulled into any documentary production insanity. Eventually, Sam and Jarl and I put together a paper describing our path to the Z340 solution. It describes the Zodiac case, the background of the ciphers, historical efforts to crack them, prominent solution claims that came and went, crowdsourced research, other academic research efforts, the weird statistical properties of Z340, and the key idea that led to its solution, that it was a transposition and substitution cipher. We published the paper in an open access archive because we knew we didn't want this knowledge stuck behind a paywall. The link's in the video description. It's a good read if you want to learn all the technical details and background stories. We never did get around to submitting the paper to any journals. This cipher was already too much work. So what's next? There are still plenty of other interesting mysteries to sink my teeth into, such as the infamous Kryptos sculpture with its still unsolved fourth section. It made a splash in the news recently because its creator auctioned off the solution to a new custodian. Sam's been interested in that puzzle too, and made a powerful solver program to try out ideas. I also like to follow the ongoing research into the mysterious and bizarre Voynich manuscript. Will anyone ever be able to read its pages? As for Zodiac, there are still plenty of interesting mysteries and stories to explore in that case that can fuel more episodes to come. For example, it still bothers Jarl that Zodiac cycled through symbols for Z408 in an orderly way, while for Z340 he did something radically different to hide that clue. And we're still mystified by these strange repeating patterns. What kind of person fits that profile, setting up a simpler cipher like Z408 to lead into a bizarre and complicated one like Z340? So happy Z340 Day, everyone. I need to thank Sam and Jarl for their help and dedication, and the countless folks in the Zodiac community for their help and support, especially Jeffrey Laturner's countless interactions with us and his interesting experiments, and the creators of ZK Decrypto Brack Sisko, Michael Eaton, and Wesley Hopper, who laid the groundwork for future solvers such as AZ Decrypt. And also, just as importantly, thanks to all of you who watched my channel and supported my videos over the years. Your encouragement motivated me to keep pursuing these stubborn mysteries. Oh, one final note. Someone once mentioned that Z340 Solving Day, which was December 5th, 2020, happens to be the 340th day of that year. That little fact still boggles my mind. What a wild coincidence. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you next time.